Well, good morning. It's Wednesday.
Woohoo!
It's rain day, so I'm going to be looking on here. We have that memorial service on Monday, and they ask, so can we live stream that? And I thought it gets a little tricky from a remote place
Yeah.
with the equipment. From here, it's a button click. So I was just looking on here to see. Now I didn't realize it puts a caption on there, so I better quit doing that. So anyways. Woo! Monday. Good morning, Jenny and Vicky. I'm gonna take a quick look at the weather this morning because that's what I do.
Yeah. I glanced. It looks like after 1 o'clock. I hope so. I'm going to bring the bike up to Cloudcroft later this
Oh
morning.
well, let me look.
Okay.
Yep, you're right.
Cool.
It switched over to Thursday and tomorrow, but they said the same thing for day today and they changed it. Tomorrow it says it's supposed to start around 10.
Okay.
So
Well, I've
yeah,
got wet
today
weather here.
it says 1 o'clock. Um, like they know. Back in the day, if they just hit it that it was going to rain anytime today, that
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
awesome. But we are like smack in the monsoon season pattern. Started a week early. I think there was something that had to do with a hurricane on the western side of Mexico. I think kind of
Oh,
shifted that a little bit early.
okay.
So monsoonal moisture, yeah,
Loving it.
bringing it in. We'll take it. Um, gosh, the, I've got 3 weeks in the office. I got to figure out what to do. Well, first of all, I know what to do. I have to d DVBS and decamp my office in the room at the end. Store all that away, and so
Dennis would say toss in some margins.
yeah. Well, I need some margin in my office so I can walk around. The margin's getting a little bit narrow there because that's
Hey,
the
Beverly made it.
Beverly made it.
All right.
Uh,
All the way from right
uh,
there.
yeah, you know, and I know what she's thinking. See, I don't need an iPhone. We were giving her a hard time.
Yeah. I'll be hearing that.
Yeah, Apple stuff just works. It's awesome, but I mean, unless it doesn't. I've got an XR, so a 10R,
Hmm.
and they're what up to a 15 now or something like that, 15 or
15 or
16,
16 or something. Yeah.
which amazes me that Apple stuff is really good about working for a long time, but and it's with all technology. Usually, like with computers and stuff, it just starts slowing down because you've got, I mean, bigger. They the computer stays the same, but all the software that they use keeps getting bigger and bigger and needs more memory and stuff.
Or
So
this
they use,
operating system won't support that software.
yeah, I got a note on that on the computer we use for the men's Bible study, reminding me. Oh yeah, new tricks, a whole new computer system. Here's the thing, Beverly. Apple is so much easier than PC.
Man,
It
you're talking right out of my bag, Larry.
it and this is a guy who fought that forever. I think I've told you the story in college. So in college, Cynthia's older brother had worked for Radio Shack, so he got computers as bonuses and stuff like that. So Cynthia and I got through college, so the mid to late '80s, on an Apple IIc. Now, let me describe this. Yeah, couldn't catch on. I'll tell you, Beverly. It's like my progressive lenses that I have. I got them one time, and after about a week of being nauseous the whole time, I gave up. And so when I went back to the doctor, he said, "How are those working?" I said, "I couldn't do it, man." He said, "You try them for 2 weeks, and then if you can't get them to work, we'll check them." So I did it for 2 weeks, and one day I just looked and I thought, "Hey, I can. Everything works. I can see everything. Everything is in focus."
Yeah.
So you just got to do it. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, man, this is easy. So
She's good on
this
my
Apple,
Apple.
yeah, this Apple IIc, it did not have any kind of hard drive on it. It had 64 of K, that was the memory, 64 kilobytes, which, so you know, a meg is 1,000 kilobytes. A gig is 1,000 meg, right? And a terabyte is 1,000 gig, just so you know. And contrary to what I thought they were just making up stuff with Star Trek when they talked about a terabyte and a teraflop back in those days. Teraflop is speed, terabyte is memory. So anyhow, you would have to take the disk, so the word processing disk, it was the 5 1/4 inch floppy, 5 1/2 inch, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Stick it in there, boot up the computer with that floppy, which is the word processing program. And I do that just because you could format it. That was it. No spell check or anything. When you wanted to save it, you had to pull that disk out because that had the program on it, put another disk in and save it. And it was a whopping like 700K
Yeah.
that you could put on there. 740, I think. So,
My
but
first one
anyway,
was a Tandy with 3.5.
oh, well, the first one that I messed with, I didn't own it, was they called it a Trash 80. It was a TRS 80, the Tandy Radio
Yeah.
Shack. No, that one had a cassette on it. It had no discs. It was a cassette you would put in there and save. So I had a friend in college who told me Apple was going to be the next big thing. We called them Macintosh back in those days.
Yeah.
That was going to be the next big thing. And if I had any money, I should invest in it. And I said, you're crazy. When you go to a computer software store, 95% of the store is PC stuff, and you've got like 3 things to choose from for Apple. I bet you he's laughing at me now. If he invested, back then $500 was a whole lot. If he invested $500 as many times as Apple stock has had to have split, I should look him up. He probably works for Apple and has a yacht. Yeah. So anyhow, that's my Apple spiel. But that's not what we're talking about. So, but this works. So this principle that we're going to talk about this morning, Jim, even works on computers. Are you ready for this? This is huge. So we're talking about margin, building margin in your life, and what we talked about Sunday week ago was the principle of the Sabbath, that we were created to have margin in our lives. And so because of that, we need to learn how to do that. How do we create margin? So this last week, using the same verse from Genesis chapter 3, the first part of it, where was it chapter 3, chapter 2, whatever it was, where it talks about that God created everything in 6 days and then he rested. It wasn't because God was tired. He didn't, and we think that, well, I don't need to rest. I'm not tired yet. That's not the way we're created. We were created to have margin. And so think about this. I don't think I brought this out very much in the message, but Adam and Eve didn't get tired.
Huh.
It was only after sin, he says, then now because you've sinned, you will work by the sweat of your brow. That means an arduous kind of work. They didn't get tired before that. The work that they did wasn't tiring. I think, just knowing the way we guys at least are put together, men, that work is kind of rejuvenating. I mean, don't you love it when you are so much more mechanical than I, when you take apart an engine and put it back together and it's all refurbed and
when a plan comes together
and it works. You're just like, man, how energizing that is. Man, I accomplished something. And it's that feeling of accomplishment that's energizing. I think that tending the garden was just that way for them all the time.
That's the feeling I got, that God was saying what you used to enjoy is kind of going to stink now.
Yeah. Used to be pleasurable for you. Now it's going to be hard. And so God didn't need to rest because he's God. He's infinite in power. And loving that Bible study we're going through on Sunday nights with the men, that he's the cause that transcends time and space. He's the one from whom from whom everything has come. You
The
know,
prime cause.
yes, and infinite in who he is and his power. And so uh, God didn't need to rest. I don't think Adam and Eve got tired either until afterwards. But even in that state of perfection where they didn't need to rest because they didn't get tired, God created them for rest,
Yeah.
that they have a day of rest. And then we get the picture in chapter 3 where God comes walking in the cool of the day, and even in that, not just one day a week did they rest from everything, but that gives you kind of an idea that even in their day there was built-in time. I mean, God came walking in the cool of the day just to hang out with them. And that's the way we're created. So
Yeah.
in order to help us do that, and this is based on a bunch of stuff we've heard, the seating capacity, parking capacity, that functionally speaking 80% full is full. And we know that to be true. Think about it. If there's a parking lot with 100 spaces, so think of how big that parking lot would have to be, and there's only 20 empty spaces scattered throughout, you're going to look at that and say, man, it's full.
Yeah.
And you're going to struggle to find a place. We can do that better with parking. When you come into an auditorium or sanctuary that seats 100 and there are only 20 empty spaces scattered throughout, that, first of all, there's probably going to be more than one of you. So functionally speaking, it is full. There's not two seats together. So there's nowhere we can sit. But even if it was just you, how weird is that to go pick a spot where you sit in the middle where there's people all around? That's it. Even though when we got the chairs, we didn't skimp. The chairs that we have, I don't
Nice.
remember. I don't. Well, I got the thicker, denser foam. I got the ones that roll at the front, so they're easier on the backs of your legs. You got the ones with a little lumbar support in the back, but we also got the ones that are wider.
Hmm.
So they're a little bit wider. So for the average person, you should have some room between you and the person next to you, and that was the reason we did that. Besides that, not everybody's seats are the same. um, not so. Um, yeah, I'm just going to stop there and move on. So we know that with parking, we know it with seating capacity. And I was interested as I was looking at stuff for the message on Sunday, that Japan, their 80% rule, and I can't even try to say it without reading it, and I'm sure I butchered it trying to read it, is when you're 80% full, eating to stop. The way that I would say that for us, because how do I know if I'm 80% full? But with us, what I say is eat until you're satisfied.
Or you're not hungry anymore. You said that
Yeah,
Sunday.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Eat until you're not hungry, and then stop. So, but that's not how I was taught as a kid. Probably not you, because everything is in abundance here in the U.S. And so we eat until we can't eat anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the problem with that. Speaking of eating, you guys, yeah, yeah, you get parking tips in here, seating tips in here, eating tips in here. Um, here's the thing.
Multifaceted study.
I'm telling you, I was so it was so encouraging for me. There was a lady last year that I shared about, how I've lost some weight through intermittent fasting, and actually I don't even think I shared it in the service. I think she asked me, and by the end of the summer, she goes, I got to tell you, not only have I learned spiritually, but I lost weight while I was here because I started doing that.
Oh man.
So, you just never know what you're going to learn. But eating, we're supposed to eat slowly, thoughtfully is the way that the app told me, because I don't know if we all realize this. We know this at Thanksgiving. We eat till we're full, but do you know what? you continue to feel more full after you stop eating.
Hmm.
So if you just eat until you're not hungry anymore, then you're going to continue to feel more full. So 80% full is full according to the Japanese way of going. Stop when you're at 80%.
You said something about eat thoughtfully or slowly. It struck me Sunday when you talked about Psalms 90 to count our days and so that we'd use them thoughtfully. And I thought, man, we're talking about taking away 20% of our days for margins. It's amazing that that 20% is an important part of the thoughtfulness of our day, that
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be included.
You you're wise beyond your ears, my friend used to tell me. uh, you're wise but beyond your ears.
uh,
I'm actually going to press into that on Sunday.
oh, cool.
Even more, um, because here's y'all's little glimpse into the Sunday message. Because when we pack our days, we squeeze out God. If we go from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, and we're bad about this, and it's going to take very intentional, not just with us, but with the younger generations, because when we have a spare moment, what do?
Oh, yeah.
We, I most everybody does it. Would love to pick on the teenagers, um, but I see old people that's people mine and your age. I see old people sit down and scrolling through. You see it at restaurants. I mean, we all tend to do that, and so when we pack out our lives, we squeeze out God.
Yeah.
Um, and so you're on it. So boy, you're ahead of the curve. But
You started it.
this actually even works with computers.
Oh, yeah.
That so when your hard drive gets to about 80% full, it doesn't it starts 80% is okay. Anything beyond that, it starts to not function well because it needs that extra hard drive space for operating. I don't know if you understand this about computers, but it is your computer is constantly writing things to your hard drive even if you're not saving things.
Hmm.
The operating system has to do that. They're temporary files, TMP files,
Is it
and it has
RAM?
to do that. It well, in your RAM, it has to do that too. So your RAM is the same way, but your hard drive. So I don't know if you know this. Was it you? No, it was someone else that was telling me this. Their hard drive filled up. Their computer wouldn't work
Wow.
because the operating system has to create temporary files. It's like trying to work on your desk, and if your desk is full, there's nowhere to set something on your desk. You have to hold everything in your hand. That's your RAM. There's only so much you can hold in your hand. We need to set stuff down on our desk, whether it's books
Okay.
or whatever, to be able to write. Computers are that way.
Wow,
And
cool
so,
analogy.
well, so when your hard drive is 80% full, it's full. When your RAM is 80% full, it's full. Although we know RAM should get purged every time you restart your computer. So it's that way in
Oh,
life.
man. You mean give it a margin? You mean like reboot?
Yeah, give it a well. We got that's declutter. That's a whole
Oh,
different series.
oh, okay.
We did that one time where we declutter some stuff. But yeah, when you reboot your computer, and that's why it works with your phone too, because your phone's a little computer. You're creating that margin again that it needs for it to work. So sometimes we have to do that in life. So, but 80% full is full. Let me ask a question. So why why is that hard for us to do? Why is stopping anything at 80% hard for us to do? Are you getting
I'm turning that over to Bev.
okay? Yeah, getting some input from your studio audience. Why is that hard for us to do? Why is 80% stopping at 80%? Why is that hard? Whether it's eating, seating, parking, money, time, relationships.
I got a two-prong answer if we don't get anything from the audience. I don't know if it's right or not, but it's two-prong.
Yeah. What? Just go ahead and tell me.
One is pride. I'm in control of my time. Don't bother me. I'll
Mhm.
call you if I need you. And the second is that's what the world pushes. If it's not full, it's being wasted.
Yeah, yeah. That, um, this could even work with your space in your home. Imagine if your living room was 80% full of furniture.
Oh,
Oh,
she did answer.
oh, it's easier for her to keep that than it is for, yeah,
That's
uh,
true. She says I'm the accelerator or coasting downhill, and she's the brakes.
yeah, yeah. And I think maybe I think personality wise is easier for that to be, but I would press into this with Beverly because there's some other people that might think the same thing. Um, is it no to stuff other people you want that want you to do stuff, or is it no to stuff that you want to do? So Beverly, is it
Her,
just as easy to say no to stuff that you want to do?
impossible.
Yeah.
Every day ends with my sock is not big enough for the stuff that I need to pack into the day.
so 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 I can understand it's easy. It can be easy to say no to other people for some people, not for us.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
saying no to other people can be easier, but that's not where our world pushes. Our world says you need to get all that you want. You need to get all this. If you get to the end and realize, hey, I still have 20%. I can get some stuff done.
yeah.
I can clean the house. I can do the
She's
dishes.
she's cool in that she forces in that time early in the
Hmm.
morning. She gets up at 5:30 to do her quiet time, and
Yeah.
I am not allowed to get out of the bed till 7:30
Yeah. uh,
because we talk.
yeah.
Oh,
Uh, I, I know for me,
yeah.
for me, saying no to other people or no to other things is, it may be hard, but it's easier than, so let's say this. Let's make a pretend hypothetical situation. There's well, here's me. That this would be totally with me. I get a new techno gadget, and I haven't had time to set it up. And you give me a gadget, man, I want to get into it right now. Whether it's a new computer or whatever it is, and I get to the end of the day. Now my day has been packed, and I get to the end of the day, and I do my 80%. I still have 20% that night. How
And the
hard is it
gadgets.
going to be for me not to do that gadget thing?
Yeah,
I would
impossible.
say, yeah, impossible for me. You know me, impossible. Man,
Yeah.
I've got some time. I can do this. And so that's kind of the thing. And I'm not saying that's a sin or anything like that.
No, it's
Um,
just yeah. It's
but but
hard.
but that's what makes it hard to leave that 20%
Mhm.
and say no, no. I have time to do something, so I'm going to use that time to rest.
Yeah.
That's hard. And I talked about it a little bit. Part of it too is I think that we are taught, at least our generations are taught to not be wasteful, and that wasting time is being lazy,
Mhm.
and that rest is a waste of time. I mean, my dad did that better maybe when I was younger. I remember times him getting home for dinner, and we'd go out in the backyard. And I remember because they had his, uh, they didn't wear T-shirts like with sleeves like this back then under their dress shirts. It was
A
like a tank
spaghetti
top.
strap. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. And so he'd take his shirt off. He was still in his slacks and his dress shoes, out in the backyard throwing the frisbee. I remember those kind of times. But he took his dress shirt off and his tie. But then when he bought his store, when he bought the store, it's a 24/7, 365 kind of thing, and
Mhm.
so that made it harder. But it's
You
it's
know,
hard for us to do.
You said earlier that the world has taught us that downtime is lazy. And I think that's something that the world has tricked us into, that they've taken away the biblical precedent where it says just spend some time quietly with God. They're saying, oh no, that's could be work time and work is good. So anything not working is bad. So the
Hmm.
world has taken that feel good time away. Now it's guilty time.
Yeah. So for us, for our generations, I'm Gen X. I'm at the beginning of Gen X. Gem X. You preceded Gem X. You're Gem Boomer. Um, but I'm on the tail end of your generation, the beginning of the next generation. So I'm kind of in the middle there. But for our generations, Gen
Mhm.
X, and I'll include all them and the Boomers. For us, it's work. But here's the thing nowadays, and we're going to press into this more on Sunday. If you see people get up and leave in the middle of the service, let's chase them down and try to heal the wounds. Um, but for us, it was work. For them, it's activities
Yeah, me
and
time.
doing stuff.
Hmm.
So I would say for most young couples with kids, for most young families, for them, it's hey, we have Saturday open. Let's go do fun stuff. And so
Yeah.
that's where we're gonna press into that kind of thing, because saying no is easy in a lot of realms. Hey, you want to come help me dig post holes in this area? What that means is here's your rock bar. You break up the rock, and with the post hole diggers, I'll take out the loose rock. So you want to come help me dig some post holes? No, yeah, I really need to rest. I can think of that, but hey, they have a new coffee place. You want to go get some coffee? That's going to be harder for me to say no to, or
Yeah.
to go do something fun. You know what I mean? So young families with kids, where they're packing out their time isn't with work stuff necessarily, because the millennials have kind of pulled back from that a bit. Gen Z certainly, but it's packing their days with fun stuff. They have to, and to add to this, we talked about FOMO, fear of missing out, with social media stuff. They have to post everything about that so everybody can see what good parents they are,
Hmm.
and what they're doing for the kids. They're posting all this, and so then that makes people like me go, oh, well,
Yeah.
I wish we were doing that. I wish we had time to do that, or money, or
Yeah.
whatever our constraining factor is. I wish we could do that. But we really, what happens when you run at capacity is things start to break down, and our bodies. Um, you and I maybe are at a place in life where we're like, yeah, I think finally I'm old enough to know better, so I won't do it. You know,
I wish.
um,
Yeah.
uh, but my biggest wake up call was, and this is probably 10, 15 years ago, playing freeze tag with our students, and pulled a hamstring in like 10 feet. And I thought I tripped in a hole until I tried to stand up and felt
Yeah.
it. And I'd never pulled one before, but I knew what happened. Um, and the kids are like, "But Pastor Larry, you just ran from there to there." And I said, "Well, apparently that's all it takes." Um, so, but physically, we can't run at capacity. You cannot do that physically.
Yeah.
You can't do it mentally. You can't do it emotionally.
Or
You can't
spiritually.
do it spiritually, time wise, financially. When we run at capacity, things start to break down.
Hmm.
And so, because that's not the way we're created, we're created to have margin in our life. And so, let me just encourage everybody that the three big things that I say that I still try to do: an hour a day, one night a week, and one day a month where you just rest. Now, I've switched that a little bit from do nothing, where you do nothing, because all of us think, oh, I'm going to stare at the wall for an hour. That's harder. That's more stressful for me than doing.
Yeah.
But just rest. So if reading a book is relaxing for you, do that.
I
Think
kind
if we
of
read an hour a day. Oh my goodness.
I
What were
kind
you
of
going
like
to say?
connect with God. That doesn't mean intense Bible study, but just close your eyes and talk to God for a bit.
Yeah, just hang out,
Yeah.
just rest.
Hmm.
So
Cool.
80% full is full, which we'll work on that. Thanks, man.
Looking
I'll
forward to
jump back
Sunday.
in on Friday, even though it's usually I try to take the holidays off, but I feel bad because I haven't done much in 3 weeks with
You've
Java
done
and
plenty
Jesus.
in 3 weeks.
So yeah, well, I mean, with Java and Jesus.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll probably be on my back deck um,
Cool.
uh, and jump in on Independence Day.
Dun,
So
ta-da.
happy Independence Day, everybody! Woohoo! I heard that Otero County maybe lifted the burn ban.
They
Um,
did. I saw that on Facebook.
yeah, I don't know what that means for the village, but I have a gas grill, so I can cook hot dogs and hamburgers anyhow. So, and if that doesn't work, I can smoke them. But you remember what happened when I smoked the hamburgers? I'm not kidding. They were that big by the time they got through. We had
But they
we
were
had.
delicious.
I know what happened, Jim. I was following the 80% rule. The bun, the patty only took up 80% of the bun. We still had 20% bun left over. Um,
I think we had 80% of the bun left over.
oh yeah, is that what it was? Okay, yeah. Okay, I only filled up the 20% with the. They were tiny, but boy, weren't they good?
Oh, they're delicious.
I'm gonna have to make pizza sized patties so I have hamburger size by the time I'm done. Let me pray for you guys. Send you out into your week. Always fun having you hop in, Jim. Lord, thank you. Thank you for your design. Help us to learn more about the way that you've created us, the way that you've designed us, the way that you intend for us to live. And God, we know things just work better when we do them your way. So God, help us to press into that, to lean into that in our lives, to doing things your way rather than our way. And God, I pray that as we do that, that you would just bring the blessings that only you can bring, the blessings of peace and comfort and security and just peace of a right relationship with you. And God, I pray that as we do that, others would see what a difference walking with you makes in our lives, and that would be winsome for them so that they could come to faith in Christ. For it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Larry.
I wear my Java and Jesus hat more now. Yeah.
I know that's a cool hat. I need to get one.
Yeah, they're still available in the church online store. I have to figure out how we click on that too. I don't know. I need to review our website and start updating some things. I know, right? Okay. Well, love you guys. See you on Friday.
See you then.